There exists knowledge that is like an ancient treasure. Its value does not diminish with time but only increases like a fine wine aged through the centuries. And often, the deeper this knowledge penetrates the essence of being, the stronger the resistance it meets. Imagine a book written more than a century ago, whose edition was withdrawn from circulation in the year 1933, not because of political dissent or moral decay, but because of its potential power. A book which, in the opinion of some, could give the reader far too much authority over his own reality. This is no fiction. This is the story of The Master Key System by Charles F. Haanel, the book that became a silent mentor for many great minds of the 20th century, from Napoleon Hill, whose works forged an entire self-development industry, to Earl Nightingale, whose radio broadcasts inspired millions, and even Oprah Winfrey, whose media empire reshaped the cultural landscape. All of them drew wisdom from this source, which seemed destined for a limited circle of initiates. Today we turn to the 9th lesson of this system, the lesson that reveals one of the most fundamental laws of the cosmos, the law of cyclic growth, the law that governs all that exists, from the tiniest cell to the grandest cosmic phenomena. In the very heart of America, in the city of St. Louis, Missouri, in the year 1866, a man was born whose name was destined to become synonymous with insight and success. Charles Francis Haanel entered the world in a family that, though not burdened with wealth, laid in him the foundations of industry and a yearning for knowledge. His childhood unfolded in an era of rapid industrial expansion in the United States, when possibilities seemed limitless for those who dared to dream and act. From his early years, Charles displayed an extraordinary intellect and an entrepreneurial spirit. He was not an academic scholar, yet his mind was sharp, practical, and result-oriented. Haanel began his path working in various companies where he rose quickly up the career ladder, demonstrating exceptional abilities in organization and strategic thinking. His business insight was striking. He saw not only the current problems but also future trends, anticipating market needs and creating innovative solutions. Soon he founded his own enterprise, Continental Commercial Company, which under his direction became a powerful business empire. It was not merely a company, it was a network of enterprises spanning diverse industries, from mining to real estate. Haanel became one of the most successful and influential entrepreneurs of his time, amassing a considerable fortune. Yet, unlike many of his contemporaries, Charles Haanel did not limit his interests to material enrichment. His inquisitive mind sought the deep principles underlying success, not only in business but in life as a whole. He studied philosophy, psychology, metaphysics, striving to understand the universal laws that govern human consciousness and its interaction with the world. It was this yearning for knowledge that led him to create his magnum opus. In the year 1912, Charles Haanel first presented to the world the Master Key System, not as a finished book but as a 24-week correspondence course mailed to students. This format was chosen deliberately. It allowed students to absorb the material gradually, step by step, applying the acquired knowledge in practice and observing the results. The course was intended for ambitious people willing to invest time and effort in their self-development. Among its clients were not only ordinary citizens but also prominent industrialists, financiers, and business leaders who sought new ways to increase their effectiveness and achieve new heights. They understood that true success is rooted not only in external circumstances but also in a deep comprehension of the internal mechanisms of thought and action. Haanel did not merely offer a set of techniques, he offered a holistic worldview based on principles which, in his conviction, were universal and immutable. He taught his students that every person possesses a hidden potential, the master key, capable of opening doors to unlimited possibilities. And one of the most fundamental lessons of this system, the lesson that shines light on the very nature of creation, is the 9th lesson, the lesson on the law of cyclic growth. The 9th lesson of the Master Key System opens with what seems a simple yet deeply symbolic metaphor: a seed that becomes a flower. This is no accidental image but the quintessence of understanding how life unfolds, how potential is realized, how goals are attained. Haanel emphasizes that this process is not a sudden act but a series of precise sequential stages. He writes, "All growth comes from within. All in nature demonstrates this." This sentence is the cornerstone of the entire lesson. It calls us to turn our gaze inward, to abandon the illusion that external forces or circumstances are the sole drivers of our development. Imagine a seed, small, unremarkable. It appears inert, yet within it lies the entire program of the future plant, its stem, leaves, buds, flower, fruit. One cannot attach petals to a seed from the outside and expect it to grow. The sprout unfolds from the internal program, from the genetic code that is activated in a particular sequence, responding to external conditions but not created by them. The external world, soil, water, sun, only nourishes and supports this internal process but does not determine its fundamental structure. This idea, voiced by Haanel more than 100 years ago, finds striking confirmation in modern science. The field of molecular biology, especially the study of embryogenesis, the process of embryo development, has uncovered mechanisms that describe down to the minutest detail what Haanel intuitively understood. Already in 1969, British biologist Lewis Wolpert presented his pioneering concept of positional information. He proposed that cells in a developing embryo determine their fate not only on the basis of their genetic code but also according to their position relative to other cells and sources of signals. Each cell knows where it stands in the forming organism, and this knowledge directs its development. In other words, each cell of the human embryo, whether a skin cell, a brain cell, or a heart cell, contains the full genome, the entire genetic information needed to create a whole organism. Yet it activates only those genes necessary for its specific function, and it does so in a strictly defined order. It is like a vast library where each cell has access to all books but reads only those chapters that correspond to its role in the grand design. This is the inner program Haanel spoke of. Further research has only deepened our understanding of this phenomenon. In 2015, Stanford biologist Bruno the 50th, Lebed and his team demonstrated the astonishing precision of this inner program using CRISPR technology. They showed that altering a single gene, for example from the HOX group that controls the overall body plan in animals, can completely reconfigure that plan. It is as if changing one line of code in a computer program yields an entirely new operating system. This is not merely a change of a detail, it is a fundamental restructuring of the entire architecture emanating from within. Another breathtaking discovery confirming Haanel's central idea came from Japanese scientist Shinya Yamanaka, who in 2012 was awarded the Nobel Prize. He discovered induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPS cells. Yamanaka showed that any adult specialized cell, such as a skin cell, can be reverted to a stem cell state, that is, to a state in which it can become any other cell of the organism. To do this, it suffices to activate just 4 specific genes. This means that even in a fully formed specialized cell, the entire inner program, the whole potential for rebirth and new growth, remains intact. The program, therefore, is always inside, always ready for activation. These scientific discoveries, separated by decades and even centuries from Haanel's work, serve as powerful empirical confirmation of his central doctrine. Growth always originates from within. This is not merely a metaphor. It is a fundamental law of biology that governs the development of all living beings. But the concept of an inner program and cyclic growth is not an exclusively modern revelation or a 20th century epiphany. Its roots plunge deep into ancient wisdoms and philosophical traditions of diverse cultures. It is a universal principle that has been intuitively grasped and symbolically expressed through millennia. In the mystical tradition of Kabbalah, for example, we find the symbol of the Sefirot, the tree of life. This is not merely a diagram but a dynamic model of growth and manifestation where each Sephira represents a stage or aspect of divine creation and human consciousness. The tree of Sefirot unfolds from Kether, the highest crown representing the primal will and potential, down to Malkuth, the kingdom, which symbolizes manifested reality. It is a path of descent and ascent where each rung is a development of the previous, and the whole process constitutes a single organic growth from within outward, from the invisible to the visible, from potential to realization. This tree is not built from the outside, it grows, unfolding from its inner seed. Parallels can also be found in ancient alchemical texts, which at first glance appear merely as recipes for turning lead into gold. Yet alchemy was far more than a proto-science. It was a profound system of transformation, both material and spiritual. In works such as Aurora Consurgens circa 1420, a four-stage alchemical process is described: nigredo, albedo, citrinitas, and rubedo. Nigredo, the stage of blackness, decay, primordial chaos, where the old dies. Albedo, the stage of whiteness, purification, rebirth. Citrinitas, the stage of yellowness, illumination, maturation. And finally, rubedo, the stage of redness, completion, the full realization, the creation of the philosopher's stone or gold. These stages are not merely chemical reactions, but symbols of inner growth, a sequential transformation of matter and spirit unfolding according to a precisely defined inner program. Each stage is necessary for the transition to the next, and rubedo cannot be reached without passing through nigredo or albedo. Even in the Age of Enlightenment, when science began to separate from mysticism, great minds continued to intuitively sense this principle. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, not only a great poet but also an eminent naturalist, in his work Metamorphosis of Plants, 1799, advanced the idea of the Erbpflanze, the prototypical plant. He observed that all parts of a plant, stem, leaves, flowers, are merely modifications of one fundamental organ, the leaf. Goethe wrote, "The leaf is the prototype of all." For him, the leaf was not simply a part, but the expression of an inner idea that unfolds and transforms into various forms, creating the whole plant. This was a deep understanding of an inner program that governs morphogenesis, manifesting in countless variations. And of course, Eastern traditions also offer their parallels. In Zen Buddhism, there exists a series of images known as the 10 Pictures of the Ox-Herding Man. These 10 pictures symbolically describe the stages of the path to enlightenment, from seeking the ox, the true nature, finding it, taming it, bringing it home, to complete merging with the world, and finally returning to the market to share wisdom with others. Each picture is a stage of inner growth, a sequential unveiling of consciousness that cannot be skipped or rushed. It is not an external achievement, but an internal transformation unfolding in its own rhythm, like a seed becoming a flower. All these ancient and modern examples, from molecular biology to mystical traditions, converge on one point. Growth is a process that begins from within. It follows an inner program unfolding through exact sequential stages. This understanding is the key to the practice of the 9th lesson. Haanel invites us to apply this universal law to our own goals and aspirations. The practice of the 9th lesson is simple in its wording, yet deep in its potential. It consists in choosing one concrete goal, the one that now matters most to you. Then, instead of immediately focusing on the final result, Haanel advises visualizing this goal as a seed. Plant this seed today in your mind. Imagine it in full detail, with faith in its potential. Next, step by step, visualize its growth. Picture, after a week, the seed sprouting, sending up a first barely perceptible shoot, yet full of life. After a month, see the shoot strengthening, the first leaves appearing, a bud forming, the promise of future flowering. After a quarter, 3 months, behold the bud fully opened, transformed into a beautiful flower displaying all its color and fragrance. And finally, after a year, imagine the flower bearing fruit, the complete embodiment of your goal, realized in its fullness. A key aspect of this practice is not only the visualization of the final result, but the detailed living through each intermediate stage. Seeing each stage, not merely the final, makes it not a mere mental exercise, but a profound reprogramming of our relationship to time and process. Human nature often leans toward impatience. We crave instant results, swift gratification. We sow a seed and expect a flower the next day. When this does not happen, we become discouraged, lose faith, and abandon our goals. Haanel's practice of cyclic growth destroys this impatience.
It teaches us to honor the process, to understand that each stage is necessary, that inner growth requires time, nourishment, and sequence. It instills in us the patience of a gardener who knows a seed will not become a tree in one night, but that with proper care and constancy it inevitably bears fruit. This understanding frees us from anxiety and frustration, allowing us to enjoy the journey itself, trusting the inner program that unfolds within us and through us. This practice is not passive waiting but active creation. By visualizing each stage, we do not merely dream. We direct our energy, focus our intention, create an inner template that then begins to manifest an external reality. We become co-creators, working in harmony with the universal law of growth, which always emanates from within. And this is only the beginning. And it is only the beginning. We stand at the threshold of understanding that this inner law of cyclic growth, which Charles Haanel described so insightfully at the dawn of the 20th century, finds its astonishing confirmation in the most advanced realms of contemporary science. From the neuroplasticity of our brain to the tiniest mechanisms of epigenetics, from the intricate network of psychoneuroimmunology to the placebo phenomenon, everywhere we see how the inner program, our intention and our attention shape and transform our reality at the deepest levels. Consider your brain, this incredible organ once thought to be a fixed, unchanging structure after maturity. For a long time, the prevailing paradigm held that after a certain age the brain ceased developing, and we were limited to the neural connections forged in youth. Yet the past few decades have yielded revolutionary discoveries in neuroplasticity that have completely overturned this view. We now know that the brain is a dynamic, constantly changing system capable of reorganizing its connections and even generating new neurons throughout life. Norman Doidge, Canadian psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, in his book *The Brain That Changes Itself*, published in 2007, described in detail how our brain can adapt, heal, and learn, literally reshaping its physical structure in response to experience, thought, and intention. This is not a metaphor. It is a scientifically proven fact. One of the most vivid demonstrations of neuroplasticity came from the famous 2000 study by Eleanor Maguire and colleagues at University College London. They examined the brains of London cab drivers. To become a licensed London cab driver, one must complete the grueling 4-year training known as the Knowledge, during which candidates must memorize 25,000 streets and 20,000 points of interest within 6 miles of Charing Cross, as well as optimal routes between them. This demands colossal spatial memory. The researchers used magnetic resonance imaging to compare the brains of experienced London cab drivers with those of a control group who did not drive taxis. The results were striking. The posterior hippocampus, a region critical for spatial memory and navigation, was significantly larger in the cab drivers. Moreover, the size of this region correlated with the number of years spent driving. The longer one had been a cab driver, the larger the posterior hippocampus. This is direct evidence that intensive, purposeful mental effort, akin to the effort we apply when visualizing the stages of our goal's growth, can literally alter the physical structure of our brain. Our inner focus, our intention, shapes our brain, making it more suited to realizing our tasks. Going deeper, to the very foundation of our biology, our genes. Until recently, it was believed that our genes are an immutable script predestining our fate, our diseases, even our character. Yet the field of epigenetics has revealed a completely different picture. Epigenetics studies changes in gene expression that are not linked to alterations in the DNA sequence itself, but affect how genes are read and activated. In other words, it is not the genes themselves, but how they are switched on or off that determines our biology. Bruce Lipton, cell biologist and author of the bestseller *The Biology of Belief*, became a pioneer in popularizing this idea. He showed that it is not genes that control our lives, but our perception of the environment, our thoughts, and our beliefs. The cell responds not to genes but to signals from outside, both from the external environment and, crucially, from our consciousness. Our consciousness, our inner world, becomes the conductor directing the orchestra of our genes. A striking 2014 study by Brian Dias and Carrie Ressler of Emory University demonstrated how these epigenetic changes can be transmitted across generations. They conducted an experiment with mice, conditioning them to fear the scent of almond acetophenone by pairing the odor with a mild electric shock. The mice quickly learned to panic at the scent. The most astonishing result appeared in their offspring. The first generation, F1, and subsequently the second generation, F2, exhibited heightened sensitivity and fear of the almond scent, despite never having experienced the shock or interacting with the traumatized parents. The research showed that the shocked mice underwent DNA methylation changes in their sperm, affecting the gene responsible for scent perception. This fear, this inner program of reaction, was inherited. This profoundly reshapes our understanding of inheritance and shows that our experiences, our inner world, can leave a mark not only on ourselves but on our descendants. Our inner program is not a static code but a dynamic system shaped by experience and capable of alteration. Turning to psychoneuroimmunology, the science studying the interplay among mental processes, the nervous system, and the immune system. Candace Pert, eminent neuropharmacologist and author of Molecules of Emotion published in 1997, revolutionized our grasp of this connection. She discovered that emotions are not merely abstract mental states, but biochemical events mediated by neuropeptides and their receptors. These molecules of emotion circulate throughout the body, linking brain, endocrine, and immune systems into a unified, integrated network. Our thoughts and feelings directly influence our physiology, our health, and our capacity for healing. The work of Janice Gleiser and Ronald Keikold Glaser of Ohio State University vividly demonstrated this. In a series of studies, they examined medical students during exam periods, a time of intense stress. They found that during this period, the students experienced suppression of immune function, reduced T-cell activity, weakened vaccine responses, and even slower wound healing. Stress born of internal anxiety and pressure literally weakened their physical defenses. Conversely, positive emotions, a sense of purpose and calm associated with belief in the process, can bolster our immune system, creating optimal conditions for growth and goal realization. This validates Haanel's idea that our inner state is inseparably linked to our external capacity to act and achieve. And of course, the placebo phenomenon, one of the most compelling proofs of the astonishing power of our inner world. A placebo is a substance or procedure lacking real pharmacological or therapeutic effect, yet it produces improvement in the patient because of his belief and expectation. Henry K. Beecher, American anesthesiologist, in his landmark review published in 1955, analyzed numerous studies and concluded that the placebo effect occurs in 30 to 60% of patients across a variety of conditions, from pain and anxiety to asthma and gastric ulcers. The brain, under the influence of conviction, can activate its own internal healing mechanisms, releasing endorphins, the natural analgesics, altering the body's chemistry. This is not mere deception. It demonstrates that our faith, intention, and expectation are powerful internal forces capable of manifesting tangible physiological changes. When we visualize each stage of our goal's growth, we do not merely dream, we activate an internal placebo effect, directing our energy and belief toward creating the desired reality, trusting the inner program that unfolds within us and through us. These scientific discoveries, made decades after the publication of the Master Key System, only underscore Charles Haanel's perspicacity. He intuitively grasped what science is only now beginning to confirm, that all growth emanates from within, that our inner program, our consciousness, is the driving force of our reality. This deep truth that growth always comes from within, that all of nature demonstrates it, is not a new revelation. It underlies the wisdom handed down through generations in ancient traditions worldwide. Long before modern science, philosophers, mystics, and spiritual teachers recognized that our inner world is the source of our outer reality, that everything unfolds from an unseen center. In the Hermetic tradition attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, the divine scribe whose teachings form the basis of Western esotericism, the central maxim is, as above, so below, as within, so without. In one of the key texts, the poimandrous of the corpus hermeticum it is described how the divine mind, or nous, sows the seeds of creation into the cosmos. The universe unfolds from this inner divine plan, and man, created in the image and likeness of that mind, himself is a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm. Our inner program, our thoughts and beliefs, are the seeds from which our personal universe grows. The Buddha, in the Dhammapada one of the most revered Buddhist texts, opens his first verse with the assertion, "Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all made by mind. Mano pabangama dhamma, mano seta mano maya." This profound statement emphasizes the primacy of the inner world. Our thoughts are seeds. They determine our reality, our suffering, or our liberation. If we think negatively, we create a negative reality. If we think positively and purposefully, we create a corresponding reality. Growth always begins with the intention of mind. In the ancient Indian text Yoga Vasista one of the most extensive philosophical treatises, it is described how the world is merely a manifestation of consciousness, Brahman. It is asserted that our perception creates our reality. Mind is the creator of the world, the text declares. The individual consciousness, jiva, projects its own universe, and all that we experience is merely a reflection of our inner thought. This teaching directly parallels Haanel's idea that the inner program, our consciousness, is the primary force in creation, and the growth of a seed is an analogy of the unfolding consciousness. Kabbalah, the mystical tradition of Judaism, offers a profound understanding of cyclic growth through the symbol of the tree of life, composed of 10 Sefirot. These Sefirot represent 10 divine emanations that sequentially unfold from Ein Sof, the infinite, unknowable God. From Kether, the highest, most abstract and pure emanation, down to Malkuth, the most concrete and manifested. The Sefirot describe a structured cyclic process of creation and manifestation. Each Sefirah is a stage of growth, each contains within it the potential for the next, and all are interrelated. This process mirrors the idea that growth is not chaotic but follows a divine order, unfolding through clear and necessary stages, like a seed that passes through all phases before becoming fruit. Even in Western philosophy, the Stoics, such as Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, emphasized the primacy of the inner world. They taught that it is not external events that trouble us, but our attitude toward them. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoics urged the cultivation of inner tranquility, reason, and wisdom, focusing on what lies within our control, our thoughts, judgments, and reactions. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote in his Meditations "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make of it." They understood that the inner program of character and wisdom is forged through sequential effort and concentration on the internal. This inner growth then determines how we perceive the external world and interact with it. In Zen Buddhism, which brought Bodhidharma to China, the emphasis is likewise on inner seeking. Bodhidharma taught direct pointing to the human mind, seeing one's own nature and attaining enlightenment, rejecting reliance on external scriptures and rituals. The truth, the seed of enlightenment, lies within each person. It is a process of inner unfolding, revealing one's true nature, not acquiring knowledge from outside. The 10 pictures of the ox-herding man in Zen are a series of images metaphorically describing the sequential stages of the path to enlightenment, from seeking the ox, the true nature, to taming it and ultimately returning to the world with an enlightened heart. Each picture is a stage of inner growth and transformation. These ancient parallels, from Hermeticism to Zen, from Kabbalah to Stoicism, all point to the same fundamental truth: growth always originates from within. They teach us that our consciousness, our thoughts, our intentions are seeds which, if properly planted and nurtured, will unfold into our reality through a series of precise and inevitable stages. They confirm Haanel's wisdom, urging us to trust the inner program and patiently observe its sequential manifestation. It was this deep understanding, this law of cyclic growth, that inspired and shaped the lives of many eminent individuals whose achievements have changed the world and continue to influence millions.
Like Haanel, they realized that the key to success lies not in external circumstances, but in the sequential unfolding of the inner program. Their stories stand as vivid examples of how applying these principles can yield extraordinary results. One of the brightest examples is Earl Nightingale, the American radio host and motivational speaker whose 1956 recording, The Strangest Secret, became the first audio course to sell over 1 million copies, laying the foundation for the entire personal development industry. As a young man, Nightingale heard the phrase, "We become what we think about." He resolved to test the idea. For 5 years, he deliberately focused on achieving his goals, daily writing them down and visualizing them. The result was staggering. He attained everything he set out to achieve. In his recording, The Strangest Secret, he declared that this secret was precisely this: you become what you think about. He urged listeners to choose one goal, write it down, visualize its achievement each day, and then act in accordance with that vision. Nightingale's success was a direct consequence of applying the principle of inner growth and focused intention. He planted the seed of thought, patiently cultivated it, and it yielded a bountiful harvest, proving the efficacy of teachings akin to those set forth in the Master Key system. His work is a modern echo of Haanel's principles, translated into language accessible to millions. No less significant is the influence of these ideas on Napoleon Hill, author of one of the most influential bestsellers of all time, Think and Grow Rich. His 20-year journey began with a fateful meeting with Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his era. Carnegie, impressed by the young Hill, offered him an extraordinary mission. to spend 20 years interviewing the most successful Americans to uncover the universal principles of their success. Hill accepted the challenge, and his 2-decade effort, supported first by Carnegie and then by Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and other industry titans, culminated in the philosophy of personal success laid out in his book. Napoleon Hill openly acknowledged the influence of Charles Haanel and the master key system on his work, considering it one of the foundational texts shaping his understanding. His own 20-year investigation is a vivid example of cyclic growth, a prolonged commitment, sequential stages of gathering information, analysis, writing, and revision, which ultimately produced the monumental Fruit, a book that has inspired generations. He, like a gardener, patiently collected seeds of wisdom, allowing them to sprout and coalesce into a cohesive system. In a more recent context, Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, in his famous 2005 Stanford commencement address, spoke of connecting the dots backward. He recounted how, after dropping out of Reed College, he began attending calligraphy classes. At the time, this seemed utterly useless. He simply followed his intuition, an inner impulse that had no obvious purpose. 10 years later, while designing the first Macintosh, he recalled the beauty and elegance of calligraphy. He insisted that the Macintosh have many fonts and beautiful typography, which made it unique and aesthetically appealing. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward, Jobs said. You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. This story perfectly illustrates the principle of cyclic growth. Jobs planted the seed of calligraphic knowledge, not knowing what the fruit would be. He trusted the inner program, and that seed unfolded into a decisive element of his creative fruit, the revolutionary computer. It shows that growth stages are not always linear or immediately obvious, but each contributes to the overall plan. And of course, Oprah Winfrey, media magnate, philanthropist, and one of the most influential women in the world, openly acknowledges the impact of the master key system on her life. She has repeatedly spoken of how the principles set forth in Haanel's book, The Power of Thought, Visualization, Intention, and the Law of Attraction, helped her overcome incredible hardships, from poverty and deprivation to battles with racism and sexism, and build an empire. Oprah's life is a powerful testimony to how an inner world cultivated through faith, purpose, and persistent effort can transform external reality. She embodies the idea that growth emanates from within, that the conscious application of these principles allows one to shape one's destiny, unfolding the inner program to its full and glorious manifestation. These stories are not merely anecdotes. They are evidence that the law of cyclic growth described by Haanel is a universal principle that operates regardless of time, culture, or field of activity. Whether it is the creation of an audio bestseller, a multi-year investigation of success, a technological revolution, or the building of a media empire, each of these achievements began with an inner seed, an idea, an intention that then unfolded through sequential stages demanding patience, faith, and perseverance. They show that each of us can plant our own seed, trust the inner program, and watch it become a flower and then the fruit of our most cherished goal. These examples, again not merely anecdotes but proof that the law of cyclic growth, described by Haanel, is a universal principle operating across eras, cultures, and domains. From the individuation of Jung to the Mamba mentality of Kobe, from the birth of Amazon to the investment philosophy of Buffett, everywhere we see how inner intention, vision, or program unfolds through sequential stages, leading to outstanding results. It is not magic, but a deep understanding of the laws of nature and human consciousness that allows one to consciously participate in the process of creation. However, as with any potent principle, the law of cyclic growth can be misunderstood or misapplied, leading to undesirable consequences. When the idea of growth from within is distorted, it may turn into naive positivism, magical thinking, or even toxic spirituality. Naive positivism is the belief that simply thinking positively will make all problems disappear. This superficial understanding ignores the necessity of action, analysis, and adaptation to reality. A person practicing naive positivism may imagine a flower but never bother to plant the seed, water it, or protect it from pests. He expects the flower to appear on its own simply because he visualized it. Haanel always emphasized that thought must be backed by action. Magical thinking goes further, assuming that mere thoughts or rituals can alter objective reality without any logical or cause and effect mechanism. This can lead to a denial of responsibility for one's deeds and the shifting of blame onto wrong vibrations or insufficient faith. In the context of cyclic growth, this means refusing to understand the developmental stages, the effort required at each phase, and expecting an instant result. It is akin to demanding that a seed instantly become fruit, bypassing the stages of sprout, bud, and flower. Denial of reality is another danger. When a person focuses excessively on his inner world and desires, he may begin to ignore objective facts, warnings, or feedback from the surrounding world. This can manifest as ignoring financial problems, health issues, or adverse circumstances, hoping they will simply dissipate if not thought about. Yet growth, as in nature, always occurs in a real environment with its constraints and opportunities. A seed must interact with soil, water, and sun. Ignoring these external factors is tantamount to condemning oneself to failure. Finally, toxic spirituality is a perilous phenomenon in which spiritual or esoteric principles are used to justify inaction, avoidance of responsibility, or even manipulation. It may appear in statements such as "everything happens according to the universe's plan," when in fact active intervention is required, or in condemning those who encounter difficulties as insufficiently positive. In the context of our lesson, toxic spirituality can warp the idea of inner growth into a dogma that suppresses critical thinking and healthy skepticism, causing a person to follow ideas blindly that do not bring real progress. True application of the principle of cyclic growth, as Haanel teaches, requires not only inner vision but also conscious, disciplined action at each stage. It is not passive waiting, but active creation based on a deep understanding of how processes unfold in nature and in consciousness. It demands patience, observation, and the willingness to adjust one's path based on feedback from reality. Only then can the seed of inner intention pass through all stages and bear the desired fruit. Now that we have grasped the depth and potential pitfalls of the law of cyclic growth, it is time to move to practice. The 9th lesson of Haanel calls us not merely to understand but to apply these principles so as to consciously shape our reality. We offer you a series of 5 techniques which, when integrated into your daily life for 30 days, will help you plant the seed of your goal and observe its sequential unfolding. Practice. Planting the goal seed for 30 days. Technique 1. The silence and meditation, planting the seed of intention. What to do. Each day, find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, focus on your breathing, allowing thoughts to come and go without clinging. After a few minutes, when the mind has settled, clearly formulate your primary goal, the one you truly wish to see realized. Imagine it as a tiny yet powerful seed that you gently hold in your palms. Then mentally plant this seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind, feeling its potential. Sense a deep confidence that this seed already contains the entire program needed for its growth. Minutes per day, /10 to 15 minutes. When effects may begin. Initial sensations of calm and clarity may appear as early as day 3 to 5. A deep sense of rootedness in the goal and inner peace by the end of the 2nd week. Technique 2. Visualization. Watering the sprout. What to do. Immediately after meditation or at any convenient time, devote yourself to detailed visualization. Begin by picturing your goal as a sprouting shoot. See it tender yet reaching upward. Then, following the principle of cyclic growth, visualize the successive stages. After a week, the shoot has thickened slightly, the first true leaves appear. You feel its vitality. After a month, the plant has strengthened, the stem has thickened, more leaves unfurl. You see it reaching for light. After a quarter, 3 months, a bud appears. It is still closed, but you sense its promise, its hidden beauty. After a year, the bud opens into a magnificent flower. You see its color, smell its fragrance, savor its perfection. Later, Asterisk, asterisk. The flower becomes fruit. You feel its weight, see its ripeness, understand that your goal is fully realized. Live each stage with maximal detail, engaging all 5 senses. Asterisk, minutes per day, 15 to 20 minutes. Asterisk, when effects may begin. More vivid and stable images will form by day 7 to 10. A sense of the goal drawing nearer and a reduction of impatience by the end of the 3rd week. Asterisk, asterisk, technique 3. Affirmation, feeding the soil. Asterisk, 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 what to do. Choose 1 or 2 positive affirmations that confirm your goal and your ability to achieve it. For example, my goal unfolds from within me with perfect precision and grace, or I patiently and confidently observe the growth of my intention which yields abundant fruit. Repeat these affirmations aloud or silently in the morning, throughout the day, and before sleep. Feel their truth, allowing them to penetrate deeply into your subconscious, like nutrients entering soil. Asterisk, minutes per day, 5 to 10 minutes, distributed throughout the day. Asterisk, when effects may begin. Increased confidence and positive mindset by day 5 to 7. Strengthening of belief in your abilities and a decline of doubt by the end of the 2nd week. Asterisk, asterisk, technique 4. Journaling. Tracking the growth, asterisk, 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 what to do. Keep a dedicated journal for this practice. Each evening, record your thoughts, feelings, and observations related to your goal. Note any small steps you have taken toward the goal, any coincidences, new ideas, or intuitive insights. Describe how you sense the growth of your seed, perhaps a new surge of energy, meeting the right person, receiving unexpected information. Record your visualizations and affirmations, reflect on how they evolve. This journal becomes your garden log where you document each developmental stage. Asterisk, minutes per day, sap to 10 to 15 minutes. Asterisk, when effects may begin. Awareness of new opportunities and synchronicities by day 10. Deep understanding of your inner process and reinforcement of faith in it by the end of the 3rd week. Asterisk, asterisk, technique 5. Gratitude, solar light for development. Asterisk, 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 what to do. Daily, preferably in the morning or before sleep. Devote 5 minutes to gratitude. Write in your journal or simply list in your mind 5 to 10 things you are sincerely grateful for. Include not only what you already have, but also what you expect to receive in connection with your goal. Be grateful for the seed of your goal,